Welcome. Welcome to Poetry Flash in Berkeley, California. I'm Joyce Jenkins. Today, we are pleased to present Jose Antonio Villarán, author of Open Pit, and poet and novelist Sesshu Foster. Books for this reading are available at bookshop.org/shop/poetryflash. The link is in the chat box. When you get there, click on View All for an even better look at these great books. To the best of our tech ability, you are muted on entry. Please stay muted. This event is being recorded and will be posted on the Poetry Flash YouTube channel and Facebook page. At the end, when the program ends, unmute yourself and we'll keep the Zoom on so those who are with us today live can ask a question or say hello. Visit poetryflash.org to check out interviews, reviews, poems, and more, and to see news about upcoming events all over California. There's going to be just a whole bunch of new stuff posted this week as well. So keep checking. To receive emails about future Poetry Flash readings, join our mailing list at poetryflash.org. Now to begin. Jose Antonio Villarán's new collection is Open Pit from Counterpath. He's the author of two previous poetry collections and is the translator of Album of Fences, poetry by Omar Pimienta. Rodrigo Toscano says of Open Pit, as our oligarch overlords power their way towards absconding with the moon and Mars, democratic peoples the world over are beginning to grasp that resource extractivism and its ideology is blinding us with diversions of every conceivable design. But will the hellscapes in store for us be kept from examination? Not for long. Will poetic practices keep up? Maybe. Some will no doubt pick away at extractivism. Others might ride it for a spell, yet others will get an outright jump on it. Jose Antonio Villarán's Open Pit is one such brinco. Villarán is also creator of the AMLT project, an exploration of hypertext literature and collective authorship. He lives in Davis, California. We are delighted to have him with us today. Let's give a warm welcome, vibe him a warm welcome to Jose Antonio Villarán.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you for putting this together. It's really an honor to be a part of Poetry Flash. It's kind of an institution in the Bay Area, and I'm not from the Bay Area, but I've been here long enough to appreciate it and like calling it home. So thank you so much, not only for putting this together, but also for all the work you do. And Sesshu, I'm just going to say, really, Sesshu and I have met via email and Instagram exchanges, which is kind of like a huge deal to me. I've read Sesshu's work for the longest time, so to be able to share a virtual stage, it's a big deal for me, Sesshu. So thanks. It's pretty rad. So yeah, I do. I want to read from the book I published earlier this year. It's called Open Pit, and I'll say a couple of things before I start reading. The book focuses on the story of a small mining town in the Peruvian Andes, where I was born and raised. And this town was forcibly relocated due to its proximity to a large copper deposit. This is something that occurs throughout the world much more often than we would like to know. So it's not a unique or extraordinary situation, but there's some aspects of the story that are of interest, I would say, and of interest to me. I feel really connected to this town. I've was able to travel and talk to people the book is meant to be performed. Oh, and it says my internet connection is unstable. Wonderful. But you will hear some of the testimonies from the people I spoke to in Morococha. So you'll hear them in Spanish, and you'll also hear some English. But just so that you know, I want you to be aware of it. And the book is also framed as a letter to my son, who's 9 years old now. But I started the book when he was about to be born. So this is a book that kind of grew with my son, and now I'm able to read it to him. So I think that'll be enough for now. And I'm going to try and read. I kind of like did a little mashup, or I mixed around stuff from the book. So I'm just going to like start, and I'll stop some 20 minutes later. Here we go. What happens if the way in which we study reality is confusing, chaotic? To inform about the encounter, to write, to show the inconsistency of reality. Eloy Neida. Topographical map. The parent writer, the people, capital, the extra human, government, the actant that's not one of the actants that forms part of the body of the open pit. A question of displacement. A Chinese company buys a large mining site in Peru. Copper, molybdenum, and silver deposits run through the mountain. There's a town on the mountain, a bull with no horns. In order to reach the deposits, the people must go, as must the mountain. All goes round again. The company claims it won't force anyone to leave. The craters will reach the town in 8 years. Where are the largest banks located? Where are the largest mines? The uneven distribution of harm and benefits. Copper mines versus copper producers. Always trace the money. The linking that redeems all ugliness and vulgarity. El detalle es así, directamente. ¿Qué quiero yo? Que este pueblo sea respetado como tal. Estos seres humanos que respiramos el aire, vemos el día y el anochecer, que seamos respetados como cualquier ser humano en cualquier parte del mundo, que tengan todos sus derechos, nada más. No queremos otra cosa. In 2012, the Peruvian government and the Chinese mining company Chinalco began the relocation of the residents of Morococha to the town of Nueva Morococha, Carhuacoto, located 7 kilometers to the east. Several families resisted at first, and there were protests. The Peruvian government declared a state of emergency in Morococha in 2013, which allowed it to close down the schools and the health centers, leaving the families resisting the relocation process with very few choices. No tenemos suficiente dinero para tener justicia. A question of indebtedness. I can feel the debt pulsating through my body. I can feel the different interest rates calculating themselves with every step I take. I wonder if my dissertation committee wants me to write like this, so direct and obvious and devoid of artifice. And I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm scared because I can feel the debt pulsating through my body. I can feel the music arriving from somewhere. My son will be 6 years old next week, and I hate the fact that I live so far away from him. I hate the fact that the university forces me to compete and professionalize, compete and professionalize, compete and professionalize. And I don't think that's what I want to do with my writing. The university is so fucked up right now. I can feel the debt pulsating through my body, the different interest rates, each loan calculating itself with every word I write. I write in the university, not of the university, and still in the university. And I think Fred Moten's work is necessary. I'm also suspicious of his complicity. I'm suspicious of my own complicity. All of us in the university complicit, and the millions of students incurring debt every day, billions and trillions of dollars. And do you really want to know how it feels at 4,540 meters above sea level? I'm here in San Francisco, sieged by all this tech money and complaining about the public university in the United States, while the people of Morococha get screwed by the Peruvian government and the Chinalco Mining Company and our indifference. I feel compelled. I feel obliged. Their story. I can feel the debt pulsating through my body. It works in mysterious ways. Arriba no tenías lo que tienes acá, pero la gente era feliz. Era hermoso cómo se vivía acá. Seen geographically and understood politically, the process of extraction is a profound and deep-rooted ideology of self-entitlement. Todos hemos sido mineros. Do I have a right to tell the story of Morococha? Antes estábamos mejor, cuando teníamos minería socavón. Chinalco es un cáncer. Este pueblo debería de estar pujante. Alguien tiene que contar nuestra historia. Las primeras palabras de mi hijo o llanta traidor. The psychological impact of the forceful relocation process on the children of Morococha. Are we making history, or are we simply running to an already scheduled appointment? The original infrastructure of future battlefields. To maintain the fortress, metabolic bodies in constant motion, amniotic fluid running through your nostrils, pulsations generating rhythm, body movement without structure, leaching ponds led out in endless geometric patterns, fractured mountains, a network of swollen arteries, muscles stretching, the lack of phosphorus, a maze of embryonic tissue, the original infrastructure of future battlefields. Let's try that again. Instructions on how to maintain the fortress. Shake the necessary number of metabolic bodies, thrust in constant motion. Count every single object arriving on time through a nameless conveyor belt. Be more specific, be more subversive, be more effective, be more non-economic. A network of swollen arteries, tailings pumping mercury into their reservoirs, an insatiable thirst for speed. Know this, or at least to draw from. Instructions. This world beyond future, within capitalism. How? He likes to stare at walls. Let's try that again. To extend the vortex, metabolic bodies in tungsten potions, amniotic fluid running through our nostrils, rhythm generating pulsations, body movement sit down further, teaching songs played out in endless geometrical tatters, the Bacchus monstrous, a trace of tectonic fissures, juridical and stark crutches. How would this translate into Spanish? Nos han cerrado nuestras escuelas, nos han quitado nuestros servicios. Sin dinero no tendremos justicia. In the Andean cosmovision, the individual is sociocentric. It is never conceived outside of the we. It does not disappear within the collective. Rather, the individual is always in conjunction with the rest, in conjunction with the environment. How can I live in your reality? How it works. If I were more concerned with material accumulation, you would perhaps have more things, more toys, more books. We could even buy an apartment instead of rent one. Do you feel like you have enough? Sometimes I feel like I'm not being intelligent as a parent. And then I remember that view when I was young, that hill on the horizon. You could see it clearly from the country club near our house. How different it looked at night, glowing ambers lined up in endless geometrical patterns. And during the day, dirt roads, no sewage, trash, esteras. For you, for us to have more things, places like this need to exist. I think that's how it works. You were in your mother's womb when I started writing this book. Now you're in kindergarten, learning how to read. I wonder what you'll say when you read this. If you represent the struggle, then push. And I lost one paper. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that technical problem, but I lost one of my papers. It's okay, I already corrected. A question of loss. Once again, the voices lost, the people, Morococha, lost. Their own words once again become invisible, like a specter that gravitates in the depth. Once again, the voice is lost, a loss, an absence I carry inside. Once again, it's not a surprise, although it's still surprising. The persistence of the loss, the inability of an attempt to recover. Once again, we're back at the point of departure. What does it mean to lose? I am there, listening, in the break, the recordings lost, the digital notes lost, yet their voices live inside of me, and they come out to sing as I close my eyes. The clouds get heavy, and I can't stop crying. Once again, we're back at the point of departure. Sarita's Salchipapas joint on Main Street, which is called Main and is also the main street in town. Carlos's hostel, Percy's friend, where I stayed during my last visit, and which had an internet cabina where a handful of teens would gather in the evenings to play Call of Duty. La olla de barro, where I would eat breakfast every day and watch all the miners chat it up and get ready for work before loading up their decked out SUVs. The candlelight vigil to raise awareness about the next strike. The persistent, biting dryness in the air. The coldness that seeps deep into your bones. The perpetual soroche headache that bullied me every night because of my damn coastal blood. Those 4 kids playing on the street next to the municipality, oblivious to the public hearing taking place inside. The way in which the mountains stretch abruptly towards the sky, as if they were trying to embrace the clouds, or perhaps trying to escape from the rotten smell of the tailings deposits. This urgency to write, to remember everything, because the recordings are lost. Once again, the notes are lost. Once again, the phone's screen cracked, the information inaccessible, the voices, their voices, lost, trapped within that disabled device. This urgency to remember the river's murmuring, which wouldn't stop singing. The calmness Victor Baldeón conveyed in his 90s looking sunglasses in that quarry 20 kilometers inwards from Morococha, which is now his. This urgency to write, to not forget anything, because the recordings lost, the digital notes, the phone, the screen smashed, the device disabled. I feel this urgency. I feel like I'm going to forget something because I'm so sad. Because my daughter Ramona died 4 weeks ago during her 6th month in Christina's womb. And my older brother Kiko died last week, probably from a heart attack or a stroke while he was playing football in Vietnam. And I never thought I could be this sad. And I don't know why I'm writing this anymore. But I feel with increasing intensity that there's something about the story of Morococha. That there's something about the story of Morococha. That there's something about the story of Morococha that I have to understand. There's something about the story of Morococha that I have to understand. That there's something in the story of Morococha that we have to understand. That's why I'm still here, exploring each crevice in this prison cell, while the rain makes music against the ceiling. This urgency to write, a recurrent feeling. How can I ever find peace? This urgency to understand, to create a story or a poem that is relatable. Perhaps it's not about that. Perhaps it's just, it is what it is. Es lo que hay. Once again, the voices lost. Morococha, my baby daughter, my brother. ¿Qué nos queda? Llorar nomás. Víctor Baldeón en su cantera. ¿Qué nos queda? ¿Qué nos queda? I think I'm going to stop there, Joyce. I know there's plenty of time, but
That's completely fine. Thank you for that beautiful reading. That's
thank you.
Jose Antonio Villarán from Open Pit. Beautiful book. Here's the cover, if you can see it. Yes, beautiful. Now, next, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Sesshu Foster. Sesshu Foster is a poet and novelist, and he is going to be reading from new work and presenting some images from that new work, sharing his screen. So please be patient with our tech. We're going to do the best we can. It's going to be fine. But he's reading from new work, but I just want to tell you a little bit about his two previous books that we have featured. His most recent poetry collection is City of the Future. It's been called The Poetic Soundtrack of a People and a Place, of Their History and Their Dreams. And his most recent book is a surrealist multi-genre novel, Iladatl, and which you could also say is Eladatl, a history of the East Los Angeles dirigible air transport lines. It's from City Lights, always a good omen, and co-authored with Arturo Romo. Ben Ehrenreich says, forget the zombie apocalypse, forget gun-crazy Hollywood dystopias. All these troubled times require is an economy ticket on the East LA dirigible air transport lines. Iladatl is more than a novel. It's the secret history of the secret history, the map they always kept hidden, a dream inside a dream of a dream. Hilarious and prophetic and profound, truer than truth, and realer than all realities currently available for purchase. So Sesshu Foster is has taught writing so many places: East Los Angeles at the University of Iowa, California Institute for the Arts, and UC Santa Cruz. His work has appeared in the Oxford Anthology of Modern American Poetry, Language for a New Century, Poetry from the Middle East, Asia, and Beyond, and State of the Union, 50 Political Poems. He lives in Southern California, if you haven't guessed already, and it's just really a pleasure and an honor to have him with us today. Please give a warm jazz hand welcome to Sesshu Foster.
Thank you, Joyce. Thanks so much for having Jose, Antonio, and myself here today. It's a great privilege and pleasure to be with you all. So I'll be reading some new work today. On May 12th, 9:30 in the morning, my mom died. She was 96 years old. She was at home in her own bedroom. All her surviving kids were in the house, and the sounds, and like always, on weekdays, the sounds of squealing, shrieking children on the playground came through the open window. And so she was the last of her generation in our family. She was 96 years old, and she survived all of her brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and everybody. And so then, kind of obviously, I've spent the last part of the year thinking about family and thinking about that generation and all of them. And so my current projects relate to those people who I realized too late that I had 1,000 questions for, and I'm not going to be asking them now. you know, could have and should have, I guess, but instead we were having dinner and talking about, you know, what do you want for lunch or this and that instead. Instead of instead of these things that that I'm going to be so are the slides up? Am I good? Are people seeing the slides?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Our grandparents as newlyweds, start of new lives. You gave me an ink drawing of this picture. Born in 1877, Otokichi Agawa arrived in California in 1899. Education to grade 5. Born in 1890, Umeko Yamane arrived 1913. In place of her sister, who he had actually sent for, they said. He was a dreamer, Mom said. Umeko Mom said, like many women, kept the family together. All we knew of her was that grandma in bed in the Santa Maria facility, no English except big boy and gifts, juicy fruit gum. We had no idea the Methodist church rented them a room off the parking lot when they returned from camp. How she worked in the strawberry fields, returning every day after work to nurse her husband, ill from a stroke and then dead in 1953. 2, all those eyes, feel them look out of our eyes. Do you feel it? Were they watching you at rest, sitting on a downed tree on the trail, inside a forest of Monterey pines, alone finally, waiting for the quiet to come down, waiting for the roaring that never ceased, in frequencies beyond hearing, smoking certainly, and maybe sucking a tall can in a paper sack. You won't get ticketed for that here and have to do community service on the roadside, waiting to feel a little peace descend in birdsong, tobacco smoke, occasional sounds from town. 3, still distance leaves you feeling sorry for yourself. Holidays make you feel an exile like Dad. Who are these people, you said to me? I don't even know them. Every week I sent you letters, hundreds of postcards, told you how people were doing. I took you to see your new grandson, and then you said that about family. 4, I don't know some of these people any better than you. The city is like that. You see people and you don't. You can't know them all. The ones you do talk to, what do you finally know? Go down to the food bank. See if you can volunteer. Check out the boards at the library and the community college, I suggested. Isolation will fuck you up. I have a hard time just taking care of myself. I don't have time to try to help other people, you said. I don't like to be around people in groups. I have social anxiety disorder. There was always some reason that was a perfect excuse. 5, our Aunt Mary, her Japanese name Tsuneko, stands above Umeko during their one trip to Japan in 1932. Mary returned from the trip ill with tuberculosis and died at age 22 in 1936. TB killed her brother Tom at 23 in 1939, and their younger sister Lena, also 22, died in 1940. I never heard the family speak of these aunts and uncle who died at the sanitarium in San Luis Obispo, I expect, and were buried in Arroyo Grande. Then there was the war, incarceration in horse stalls at Tanforan racetrack, internment in camps in the Arizona desert. These lives erased. Silence ate their names. Silence is eating all these words now. 6, when they closed down the camps, 110,000 Japanese Americans were handed $25 on a bus ticket and told to go where they could. Churches, United Methodists and Quakers and others set up temporary housing in towns or cities that didn't bar outright the returnees. Most families had lost everything, dogs, cars, houses, everything, confiscated, stolen, or sold for pennies on a day's notice in the weeks before they left for internment. In San Pedro, the fishing village of Terminal Island was bulldozed and their boats confiscated, burned, or sunk. Down the coast, Crystal Cove is a state park with no sign of the community that was there. In the red line mixed race neighborhood of Boyle Heights, the Fellowship Hostel put up returnees for $35 a month and volunteering in the kitchen. You never knew that's why you and I ended up in City Terrace. 7, the hostel still stands at the corner of Evergreen and Folsom. 75 years later, it looks exactly the same. A couple Mexicano caretakers were living there. At least some of them one of them with a family. Ken Ehrlich and I strolled a block over from Evergreen Cemetery and walked through the building. My aunt and uncle met here, I told a caretaker as I pushed past. The other was out in the parking lot in back, washing a big upholstered chair with a hose. Norteño music drifted through the 3-story tenement, tiny windowless rooms with long corridors and bathrooms at the end, an interior courtyard with a long, dry fountain. In the basement, showers were provided in rough concrete doorless stalls. This was where Uncle John, with his one lung left, met Fumiko Karamoto. So when Mom arrived pregnant, 6 kids in the car, her face and hand broken, we lived at their house. 8, it's true, I didn't put this story together till after Ken and I walked around the old empty hostel. And I saw the file of photographs our cousin Tom gave me. His dad had saved them all these years. Best of everything, Terry Kubata. Terry would have been a resident like Uncle John and Auntie Fu. All these 20-something Nisei released from camp, finally able to start building new lives. The war was over and they were alive. Walking down the front steps of the hostel, I saw the steps still the same as the ones in the photos. Looking toward Folsom, the palm trees in the lawn are still the same. The sunshine on their faces, the new lives ahead of them, that's the same sun as on mine. Here's Uncle Bob, fresh from the military, just a kid. He always reminded us of Uncle Bill. I don't really know, but my guess is Grandpa spoke in the same flattened register as Bill and Bob. I hear them in my voice too. Uncle Bob died this month. His memorial will be in Hayward in July. Those Agawas are all gone now. You never wanted to go to any family gathering anyway. You don't appear in wedding pictures, picnic snapshots, or the group shots where people stand awkwardly in line. When Uncle Bill died, I flew back for the funeral. We took a boat a short distance from the pier at Guadalupe Beach and tossed his ashes with a few roses into the ocean. I asked you if you wanted me to pick you up. You said, nope, nope, no way. What for? To remember what those people did to each other? What they did to me? 10. It's true, the violence and history of racism etched into their character, turned into an attitude of conservatism or edginess or worse, like Uncle Bill's poisonous anger, which he took out on us because we were boys and we were the oldest, till he threw you out of the house when you were 12, spitting and slapping you as he yelled, "These fucking kids are destroying the country." But other Nisei weren't like him. The rest built whole lives of loving and generous care, like you could have, given half the chance. These Nisei came from little or nothing, from fields of the Central Coast, from sugar beets and spinach and strawberries, the Alien Land Act and anti-miscegenation laws, from $25 and a one-way ticket and only what they can carry. They made their way. 11. You felt intensely fearful you'd wasted your life. Ashamed, you grieved at lost chances. The women you'd known, family you almost had but no longer saw you. The life you might have made. Even the sweetness of your own memories shamed you. That vertigo teetering between sorrow over what was lost and fear of nothing laying ahead. We planted a Monterey cypress in your name with your daughter, her husband, and your grandson by the bike path that overlooks Monterey Bay, west of Point Alones, where the Chinese village was burned out May 16th, 1906, and your daughter wrote a haiku on the plaque. 12. I wrote letters to you and Dad, telling him how you were and telling you what was going on with him. You refused to talk to him. So alike in too many ways. You rose at 5 a.m. if you couldn't sleep and went outside in your fleece-lined denim jacket, sat on your porch in the chilly pre-dawn fog, watching as light rose over the rooftops and switched off the street lamps, drinking the first beer. Was I the only one who knew both of you before you were destroyed from before? 13. You said you once walked to the edge of Bixby Canyon Bridge, but were too afraid to throw yourself off. I stood with you in that sea wind on the Bixby Bridge, high above the canyon, hundreds of feet below. All right, I said, that means there's time to do something else. Most of us have a story like that, don't we? You were too wrapped up in your own unfolding doom, trapped in worries and fears to know the story of these people who came before us, who worked decade after decade in the fields, persevered after their eldest children died, put the younger ones through school and lived on through them. Standing at the edge of, as clouds blew over the Bixby Bridge, you never knew these stories. They passed through our lives, or we passed through theirs. All our solitudes perfectly smooth, ordinary, unspoken, and unknown. Smooth like seeds. 14. Thursday, March 11th, 9 a.m., cool, sunny. Yesterday, Rick came by, said he'd get back to me Friday. Omar came over and brought me a beer, said he liked the cat drawing. I made a hot Italian sandwich on fresh white rolls with mushrooms, onions, and garlic. Didn't get much done. some exercise. Woke this morning feeling bad, worried, cold, almost sick to my stomach. Yesterday, got my food stamps, bought salami, sausages, mushrooms, bread rolls, onions. Need to be ready for work. Clarity plus energy. 15. March 16th, Thursday, bright warmer sun, 9:40 a.m. Walked to St. Mary's yesterday, saw Darlene. Got really exhausted walking up the hill in the heat with a backpack on and my heavy jacket. The farmer's market was setting up downtown on Lighthouse. Library closed. I didn't get the job. Tanya called and said they gave it to a guy with a truck, which makes sense to me. There was lots of hauling to be done. I thought that might happen. Sesshu sends postcards. I got to fill out my work search paper for Tony and find out what's going on with that. Finally walked yesterday again. Need to do more of that and get in better shape. Worked with John on spaghetti the other day. Came out okay. Want to go to the library, maybe in Monterey. I need energy and clarity. $160 today, I think. Rick did get back to me on Friday. Omar has been really busy with work, so I haven't seen him much. Had a good experience reading part of an Orion issue yesterday. 16. Your solitude shamed you. Sometimes the loneliness is more than I can bear, you wrote to me. But friends and neighbors loved you. Your kindness, gentleness with their kids. They brought plates of food to you when you were sick. You had some idea you would not get well. Time is almost up, you told me. You signed off one of your letters, tick, 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 and another. I hope you are well. Months, maybe even a year after you were gone, I found a message from you on the message machine we stopped using that said, I'm just calling to thank you for the check. Thanks for everything. Talk to you soon. 17. Sabro and I drove up a couple times cleaning out your apartments, trying to get you set up. That last time we emptied out everything, saved the Levi jacket you always wore for your daughter, dropped off most of your stuff in the local thrift stores, maybe where you got it in the first place. Took the morning. Maybe I should have kept some of those cassettes you recorded with yourself on guitar, but nobody I know has a player. I left John and John Burke your pots and pans, but without you to negotiate with the landlady, they got kicked out of the apartment. Little Omar was happy. We gave him your laptop computer. 18. Ashtray, empty beer can at the top of the stairs. Somebody told them we were in the apartment. Debbie, Alba, and the others climbed 3 flights of stairs to the door. They'd actually tidied up anyway before we got there. They knew something of the real you. Omar was gone, drinking himself to death in Oaxaca. After he was deported, his wife said, crying. The little crowd stood in the doorway trying to talk to me about you. They searched my face, looking for you. So there's that. Okay. So I'm grateful for appearing with you, appearing with Poetry Flash, and Jose Antonio. Now that a whole generation of my family is gone, I told the poets that I was reading with last night at Beyond Baroque that you know, like it or not, better or worse, you guys are my family now. You're what's left. And I was honored that Quentin Ring and Beyond Baroque put on as part of the Southern California Poetry Festival. They brought down a bunch of poets, and Caribbean Fragosa, Amy Uematsu, and Angel Dominguez read poetry with me last night. So this morning I was again thinking about that and feeling grateful to be amongst poets, and so I thought I would go to imaginary Fresno, which is the poetry capital of the world, and wrote this piece. Fresno. Maybe one day I'll live in Fresno with the poets. Maybe I'll live in Fresno like Gary Soto or Juan Felipe. I'll live on a side street named F Street, G or H, Mono, Inyo, or Kern, in a little 1920s wooden house that needs a new roof, insulation and swamp coolers hanging off a couple windows that almost work. The house dark and quiet inside, so you'll hear cars passing in the street, blasting music or beats that pass. Flies buzz at the screen door or in the middle of the living room. Mexican music floats from a couple houses away, even if under the shade of a pepper tree, the sunshine makes your eyes hurt if you look at the sidewalk. Maybe I'll walk around downtown where I've never walked before. Never strolled these Fresno blocks where Arturo put the Eladat dirigible station he described in our novel like an abandoned Greyhound station. I'll get mutton stew for brunch at a Basque restaurant with Mexicanos staffing the kitchen. A pyramid of old ceramic cups for coffee. Stacks of plastic cups. If you want ice water, you can fill it yourself. I'll sit at a Formica table with Tabasco sauce, salt and pepper shakers, and a paper napkin holder, thinking to myself about Philip Levine, Omar Salinas, William Soroyan, William Everson, and I'll open a new book I'll be carrying by Joseph Rios, Anthony Cody, or Mai Dervan. Read some poems and think about them. Annotate and write on the books if I feel like it. I might get inspired and have to write something right there. I'll look out the window and think, here I am in the capital of poets. Here I am in Fresno. All right, we'll cut it there. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sesshu Foster. Thank you so much. Thanks to these two wonderful poets and writers, Sesshu Foster and Jose Antonio Villarán.
And thanks, Jose Antonio, for your work. Thanks, Joyce, for your work. 50 years of Poetry Flash.
Yes, it's our 50th year. This is our 50th year. And thanks to our tech support, Rosalinda Monroy. Thanks to everyone who logged on today. This reading will also be posted on the Poetry Flash YouTube channel. So if you want to share it after that, that would be great. And it's also going to be on the Poetry Flash Facebook page. And please check out the books by these wonderful writers, poetry, excuse me, bookshop.org/shop/poetry flash. And I think that's it, other than just to look at poetryflash.org for readings in the future. We have more coming up. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.